Let's come to certain historical details. Vaisheshik Sutra and Prashast Pad. So Vaisheshik Sutra is attributed to Kanad, who is also called Olukya or the son of Uluk. Exact date we are not certain about, but there is a strong reason to think that it is pre-Buddhist. And Prashasthapad's Bhashya or this Prashastapad is the most important early commentator. Was born near Dwarka in Prabhash in it was a discipline of Som Sharman, so present day Gujarat. Although it's called a Bhashya, Prashastapad Bhashya, but it is not actually, it doesn't actually follow Sutra by Sutra. It gives an independent systematic treatise on the categories called Padarth Dharma Sangrah, which is the compendium on the properties of categories. He expounds Dharma, Gun, Karma, Samanya, Vishesh, Samvay in rigorous detail and doesn't explicitly quote Panad. Other commentaries are also there, Ravan, Bhashan, Bhardwaj, Pritti. These survive only through later references. And later Vaisheshik commentaries also include Kiranvali and Ratnakar. And then in the early Nyaya commentaries, we have Vatsayan Bhashya, amongst which Nyaya Sutra is by Akshapad Gautam. Uh, Nyaya Sutra is by Akshapad Gautam, and we mentioned the name Vatsayan Bhashya. This is the earliest commentary, and this is of this exact date is uncertain, but scholars place him roughly in the 4th century CE. Professor Jacobi mentioned it around 300 C. Then we have Udyot uh, he wrote Vartika. So Udyotakara wrote Nyaya-Vartika, which is a sub-commentary on Vatsayan's Bhashya, and it clarifies Nyaya's meanings and refutes, the Buddhist logician Dignaga's criticisms in his book Pramana Samucchay. Um, then we have Vachaspati Mishra's Nyaya-Vartika Tatparya Tika, which is a sub-commentary on the Vartika to interpret Udyotakara correctly and responds to many intervening critics as well. Then we have Udayana who wrote Tatparya Parishuddhi, which is a further commentary which refines Vachaspati's work. This work by Udayana. Then Vardhaman wrote Nyayani Bandha Prakash, which is a commentary again. Then Sankara Mishra wrote Upaskara, which is again a commentary on Nyaya Sutra. So there is a chain of sub commentaries which clarifies and expands the previous. We have many independent Nyaya works also, for instance, Nyaya Manjari by Jayant Bhatt, which is an independent systematic exposition and it is very lucid and literary. Then we have Nyaya Kusumanjali of Udayana, which proves the existence of God. Then we have certain medieval texts as well. Dinakara and Ramrudra are certain important commentators here. We have Bhash Pariched by Vishwanath. We have Tark Sangrah by, with the commentary Nyaya Nirnay. We have Tark Bhasha of Keshav Mishra with commentaries like Nyaya Pradeep. These works became the standard primers of Nyaya logic in the later scholastic circles. Then a very new, which is a very important addition to the Nyaya thought, which is a new school of Nyaya called Navya Nyaya, which was founded by Gangesh Ubadhyay of Mithila, and his main work is Tattva Chintamani. So he writes only on the four pramanas, a perception, inference, comparison, and testimony, but what he really shines in is his treatment of Anuman or inference, which is so subtle and technical that it spawned a huge industry of commentaries, especially in Navadvip or Bengal. So later, major Nav Nyaya figures, Raghunath Shiromani or Jagadish or Gadadhar, So they wrote many extensive works clarifying and extending the works of Gangesh Mishra. So what did Navinai do philosophically? Navinai was not primarily, the contribution is not primarily new metaphysical doctrines about God or soul. It just, created an extraordinary, precise, logical linguistic framework to analyze the concepts and its relations. So when we talk about the relation between smoke and fire, they would specify exactly what, being in the kitchen or being on the hill means, exactly what type of inherence or qualified relation holds, and why they did so, so that there is no ambiguity about what vyapti means. So they developed a very, very technical vocabulary. For example, Vishesh, Visheshan, Swarup, Lakshan, Tatastha, Lakshan, etc. And very subtle distinctions about limiters, qualifiers, loci, relations. So it is more like an Indian symbolic logic plus philosophy of logic. And of course, the base was the classical Nyaya metaphysics. And Navinai, because it created a very sophisticated technical knowledge for logic, and these were so good, by the way, that the other schools even adopted them when they needed so precise argumentation. But once Sanskrit, stopped to be the main vehicle of philosophical writing in India, the importance of and influence of Navinai gradually went on a downhill. It declined, and it is. Let's see what happens to this school now. We need for any philosophical school to prosper, we need a large number of new students. So it was highly influential, but current practice is low because the linguistic medium, which is scholastic Sanskrit, has gone out of active philosophical usage, and it uses a lot of emphasis on those technical, on the words in Sanskrit. So let's see where it goes. Then also we have, although Akshpat Gautam uh, wrote the early systematic work on logic, Jains and Buddhists also had been working independently on logic, and they had criticized Nyaya, and then they had contributed their own insights. In the Jain logic, we have Dasha Vaikalika Niyukti of Dash Vaikalika Niyukti of Bhadrabahu. We have Tatvartha Dhigama Sutra. We have Nyāya-Vatara of Siddhasena Divakara. We have Pariksha Samhuka Sutra of Manekyanandi. And in Buddhist Sutra, we have Pramana Samuchaya of Dignaga. We have Nyaya Bindu of Dharma Kirti. So these works, for particularly the Buddhist works, they offer a rival theory of perception, inference, and knowledge, and they heavily criticize Nyaya. And that alone, not alone, but that was a reason why Nyaya thinkers like Uddiyodhakara had to reply. So, who owned logic in this period? Between Vatsayan, 4th to 5th century, and Uddiyodhakara, who was in 7th century, there is no major work on logic except these two commentators. In this period, we can say between 4th to 5th and 7th, the science of logic was largely handled by Jains and Buddhists. And when Dignags criticized Hindu Nyaya, that is an Uddiyodhakara, he wrote Nyāya-Vartika is a powerful defense. So, so this uh, extremely logical Nyaya we studied to there, we owe it a lot to Jain and Buddhist logical innovations against which, Nyaya had to sharpen itself, particularly Uddiyodhakara is to be given credit here because he wrote Nyaya-Vartika as a defense, and it really sharpened